We'll call this meeting of the Planning, Zoning, Agriculture meeting for August 22 to order. Roll call, please.
Mr. Olthoff, Mr. Stauffenberg, Mr. Tripp, Mr. Washington, Mr. Tholen, Ms. Polk, Mr. Mulcahy, Mr. Hildebrand, Mr. Einfeld, Mr. Payton, Ms. Peters, Mr. Ritter, Mr. Kinzinger, Mr. Fairfield, Mr. Wheeler, Mr. Lear. We have a quorum.
Justin. Okay, you've received a copy of the July 18 minutes. Is there any additions or corrections? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm trying to move the program along. We have 4 public comments, and we have 15 minutes for that, so approximately 4+ minutes for each comment. We'll start off with Cheryl Shane, please. And would you use the microphone in the back there? Thank you.
Good morning. On August 6, 2018, many residents of our community attended the Zoning Board of Appeals committee meeting. We asked questions and voiced our concerns.
Excuse me a minute. Would you get close to the microphone because it doesn't pick up?
Sorry.
There you go. Thank you.
I'm speaking about ZBA case number 1826. On August 6, 2018, many residents of our community attended the Zoning Board of Appeals committee meeting. We asked questions and voiced our concerns and objections to a proposed special use permit for a solar farm at the southwest corner of 10,000 West Road and 1,000 South Road. We all chose this community due to its bucolic setting and simple pastoral views. Many of us have lived there for decades. Others are new to the community, but also chose it for the same reasons. We wanted a rustic area with a simpler lifestyle. None of us chose to live next to an industrial site with high chain link fence and signage. This property is unique because it has residential property surrounding it on all 4 sides. Kankakee County adopted the land evaluation and site assessment on 5/11/93 as an objective tool to evaluate property use and development. During the ZBA committee meeting, the land evaluation and site assessment LISA was discussed. At the ZBA, the expert witness stated the LISA score for this property was 234.6. Per the guidelines listed in the LISA standards, a score of 234.6 recognizes a high need for protection of the site. The LISA guidelines state selecting the site with the lowest total points will generally protect the best farmland. Kankakee County has a strong agricultural history. We have witnessed acres of ground now being used for pipelines, wind farms, and now solar farms. Why continue to remove agricultural land from crop and livestock production? Why not utilize vacant industrial sites? How many solar panels could be placed on the old GNB and Roper sites? We are concerned about the increased truck traffic and the effect on our roads. We have witnessed the effect on the roads from the wind farm construction. We are concerned about the effect on the abundant wildlife in the area. We are worried about the effect on our pets and livestock as their hearing is more acute. We are concerned about the effect on our property values. We question why a local realtor was not used to determine the effect on property values. The expert testimony from a realtor being paid by the solar company and unfamiliar with our area does not instill a vote of confidence from us. They are asking for a special use permit for the entire 80 acres, but planning to use 20 acres. At the ZBA, the solar company expert stated, the leases can be sold to other companies. That establishes a footprint for future expansion. The panels are manufactured overseas. At the ZBA, the solar company expert stated they were made primarily of silicon. Frequently, rare metals are also used in the manufacturing for the panels to operate more efficiently. At the ZBA, we questioned how they plan to dispose of the panels once decommissioned or if one gets damaged. The expert from the solar company stated they haven't decommissioned any as yet. We find it difficult to believe in their 38 years as a company that a panel has never been damaged during transit, installation, or use. Currently, no landfill or recycler will accept these. The expert stated they hope a plan will be in place eventually. That is not a viable or acceptable response. Has anyone been provided the material safety data sheets for these panels? This property sits on an artesian well and is close to 2 creeks. We all have wells. We hope the property owner has an agricultural impact mitigation agreement in place for the liability involved. In closing, we believe the project would be detrimental to our quality of life. On August 6, 2018, the ZBA recommended against granting the special use permit for this property. We pray the board follows the recommendations of its own committee and denies the special use permit.
Thank you very much. Mike, what is your last name? Damps. Okay, thank you.
I'm Mike Damps from Bondfield, and I'm here in regards to ZBA case 1826 by Borrego Solar. I want to start by saying this committee owes it to the residents that put them here to extend public comment if need be, because we all deserve to be heard. I find it unfair that Borrego gets another shot today to give you their sales pitch. Their presentation, along with the questions and answers from the residents, where there was feedback required by Borrego, is what should have taken place before this committee. Let me remind you, they received no recommendation or a negative recommendation with a quorum present at the Zoning Board of Appeals. They're going to feed you lines that have been rehearsed through legal review and perfected for months. They'll say community engagement. Their community engagement was a letter left in my screen door with a solar facility smaller than the one they are presenting today. They'll say they're in this because it's great for our community, like they care. However, they stated their company builds solar facilities and then sells them. They don't care about our community. They are chasing dollars at our expense. The subject property also has a high rated Lisa score of 220 plus. This is the highest for any locally proposed commercial solar facility. My wife and I purchased our house less than 2 years ago and considered the area and view as a reason for purchasing the property, and would not have considered it if the front window looked out over an 8-foot chain link fenced industrial area. I disagree with Cohn Resnick's opinion on housing values, and I say opinion because an appraisal is really nothing more than that. They are using the same presentation and same houses for comparison on multiple solar facility proposals by different companies, which shows how small the sample size is to justify their opinion. They are using houses in the neighborhood and trying to compare them to rural properties where we value the views that we have. If I looked out my windows in the neighborhood and saw houses on top of me, then having a solar facility next door might not be bothersome. That isn't the case for our area. And then there is the noise. It is compared to rustling leaves, which is a pleasant sound. A constant hum will ruin the enjoyment that we currently have of being outside on our property with our children. If I followed you around the rest of the day and hummed in your ear quietly, it would still drive you crazy within a short time. Now imagine that for the next 25 years, every day. I find it ridiculous that Kankakee County does not have standard regulations in place to protect the residents from commercial solar companies, as other counties have implemented, and similar to wind energy, which is most likely why all these facilities are being proposed in Kankakee County. Examples would be a setback requirement of 1,500 feet from any residential property, and after construction is completed, if at any time energy is not produced and put on the grid for a period of more than 6 months, the site must be decommissioned at that time. Thank you.
All right, Don Kinsler.
I'm also here about 1826, the ZBA case number. I just wanted to express support for what my neighbors have already said, but also I just don't think this is the best location. I think that's as good a reason as any to turn it down. It's near a cluster of residences, which isn't overly common in these rural areas, but here we have a street where it's one house after another. That's the end. They're putting the farm on. There's 80 acres there. If it's got to go there, if it's going to be approved, it seems like there's got to be a better location either on that site or, as was spoken, at other defunct industrial sites would be even better. And also the high Lisa score, again, it's prime agricultural land. You know, that hasn't been, I think, the case in many of the solar facilities, but just doesn't seem like this is a good location. If it's going to be voted for, in spite of opposition from the residents, I would ask that the county make sure that certain things are done, like the screening and things like that, that you get maintenance guarantees for, say, 2 years is common at the municipality that I work for, to make sure that the screening goes up. We visited the Grand Ridge site. That was not the case there. All the screening they put in is gone. The people said it wasn't maintained. They mow there once a year. That's one of their complaints around that farm, the residences that are near there. And also, you know, the transformer can be put in a building to perhaps cut down the noise. Again, this is just if it's approved, which I'm not, you know, for, but, you know, if so, to help mitigate. If the thing's in a building, maybe that cuts down on a lot of the noise. Wouldn't have to be an extensive building perhaps, but also, I know that Minnesota requires it and that there's a House bill, I don't know if it was passed for Illinois, to make it voluntary to use pollinator mix around solar facility sites. Perhaps that could be added in there. It's good for the wildlife, things like that. And then also, where the screening's going, I would ask that we require a 2-foot berm under it. The drainage for a berm is nothing. I'm a civil engineer. I mean, that's easy to do. That would just raise up those trees that they're talking about another 2 feet and would not be a high impact, not a high expense. It's just moving dirt and earthwork and not bad. And then also, as Mike said, a greater setback than the 100 or 150 feet that they're talking about. So again, I am not in favor of it, but if it's going to be voted for, I would ask that you consider some of these things to help mitigate the impact to the residences.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Kevin McCraven.
Hello, my name is Kevin McCraven. I'm also here for the Barago 1826 solar facility. During their presentation, I was here for the Zoning Board of Appeals. Got to listen to their presentation. During that presentation, he said that he went to 17 of the nearby houses that would be directly affected by this solar facility. He said out of the 17, 10 houses he made contact with, and he had no opposition from anybody. I did my homework. I went around. I would like to present you guys with a signed petition. I have 27 signatures on here by all the other farms that are surrounding this solar facility, and every single person was opposed to it. So if they were willing to lie about that when they're supposed to be under oath, what else have they lied about? Would you like me to present this to you?
What's our procedure on that? Is he allowed to present that? He is? You can give it to me.
Thank you.
I'll give it to you, right? Yeah. Okay, thank you. That's the end of your comments? Okay. I want to thank all of you for remaining brief and getting underneath the 15 minutes that we allow. Appreciate it. Approval of minutes for the July 18 meeting. Any additions or corrections? Motion to approve would be in order. By Mr. Washington, seconded by Mr. Hildebrand. All in favor say aye. Opposed, motion carried. Under building, the building report.
I submit for your approval the monthly building division report for June 2018. We had issued a permit for 1 new home, 73 total residential permits, 6 commercial permits, no industrial permits, and that would be for a total of $20,659 in revenue collected. Comparative to last year at the same month, we had collected $25,726 in revenue.
Any questions? Motion to approve would be in order. By Mr. Hildebrand, seconded by Ms. Peters. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. All right, under still under building, stormwater, MS4 program discussion.
Okay, I am required by our stormwater MS4 program to ask the committee each month if they have any stormwater issues they would like to discuss. I can tell you that we are looking into one stormwater issue out in Momence Township, and we're working with the health department to possibly get either soil or water samples done.
Seeing none. Going on to zoning, ex parte communication to committee.
Okay. This is an opportunity for any board member to present or disclose any ex parte communications that they have had on any zoning cases over the past month.
Seeing none. Going on to certified mail return receipt from Momence Mayor.
I believe Mr. Wheeler would like to.
Mr. Chairman,
discuss
we,
that.
at our full board meeting, we were, I had this pulled by Dell. This is the return receipt. When we send out registered mail, we get a return receipt, which is part of our process when we have to notify people of solar farm or any other zoning hearing that's upcoming. The Moments mayor came to the meeting and chastised the entire board, called us liars and Dell a liar because he never received a letter. And I wanted to show the committee that it was signed for by his employee, Lori Schultz. Days, or actually, how many days was it? 9-10 days before the hearing?
13, it looks
13
like. June
days?
7th.
Yeah,
The
June
hearing was
7th.
June 25th.
Correct. And he actually responded to the letter. So I don't know how he would have not gotten this letter. So I didn't appreciate the tone and the accusations of the mayor towards this body. I would not do that in his chambers. I just wanted to let the committee and the board know and the public know that the mayor was notified in plenty of time for that hearing. Plenty of time and within the law.
Okay. Thank you. Going on to ZBA case 1824, request for rezoning from 12 General Industrial District to A1 Agricultural District and a special use permit 121-99C34 solar farm in the A1 Agricultural District on a parcel generally situated in section 7 of Kankakee Township. Petitioners are Yankee Farms LLC, Mr. Tim Yankee, and property owner and Sol America Energy applicant.
Diane, can you switch over? Does the committee want a presentation?
I'm going to ask the committee this on the cases that are not have no objections. Do you want to go through the presentation or you want to approve? No what? Okay, then in this case where we have none,
Then I can go ahead and give the background.
he can give the background and then we'll go in for the vote, all right?
All right. Before you on this case is two different actions. One is a rezoning from I2 General Industrial to A1 Agriculture, and the other is a special use permit for a 2 megawatt community solar garden solar farm. The location is on the map on the screen. It's located right at the end of River Road at its intersection with Route 45 on the Yankee Farm. During the hearing, we had one letter from the city of Kankakee that was received June 20th, signed by Frank Kaler, interim community development director. The letter asked that the zoning board of appeals delay the public hearing until a discussion could be had about annexation. To my knowledge, it's been over 30 days and that the city has still not contacted the developer about that discussion. Public comments. Jolene Moss spoke, but I believe she was speaking on the Irwin, another case in Irwin. She lives several miles away, and most of what she said had to do with that case. Tim Yonka, the property owner, stated that the farm had been in existence for over 100 years, and no one has contacted them concerning any industrial or commercial use of the property during that time. Mr. David Crawford, who owns a billboard next door and is also an alderman for the city of Kankakee, had questions about some easements that run through the property that his property with the billboard is a beneficiary of. And those were the public comments. That's not working. There's a site plan of it. As you can see, the entrance would be just south of the motel on Route 45. The solar panels would cover the majority of the site, and the entire site would be subject to the landscape and weed control plan and would be maintained by the solar farm company, which is Sol America. ZBA recommends the approval of both the rezoning and the special use permit 4-0, but with conditions on the special use permit. The conditions being the ground cover shall be planted with native pollinator-friendly species, and 2, all required landscaping shall be subject to the maintenance requirements and penalties prescribed in the weed and grass control plan.
Is there a motion to approve? By Mr. Kinzinger, seconded by Mr. Fairfield. Any discussion?
I have questions, please.
Mr. Wheeler?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Does that site, have sewer, all utilities, that would be appropriate for an industrially zoned property?
To my knowledge, it does. There is sewer and water lines running down Route 45 along the front of the property, and there is electric down through there as well. So it does have all of the urban type utilities in place. You also have a Route 45 is a 4-lane road, which is a truck route.
And the city had no objection to,
The city did not object. I do have a letter from the city. It should be in your packet, but I could read the letter to you
find
if
it odd,
you'd
because
like.
that's prime industrial, commercial area for development, even though it hasn't been, but.
They did not object. They simply asked that it be postponed until they could discuss annexation. Since annexation can occur at any time, whether this is rezoned or not, the zoning board felt that there was no need to delay their process.
Okay, thank you.
And there are easements that have to be protected. Is that correct?
Yeah, and by law, they will have to be. So whether the solar farm developer was aware of those easements or not at the time they designed this, they're certainly going to have to take those into consideration for the final design.
Okay. Any other questions? Mr. Stauffenberg?
Thank you, Chairman. Kind of a general question, Delbert. Why are all the solar peoples listed as property owners? Are they really property owners?
Where are they? I don't know where you're looking.
In
at.
the statement here that we get, property owner and, you know, it sounds like
An
Tim Yonka
applicant?
and
No,
them are property
it's-
owners. Or am I reading that
Are
wrong?
those
Right,
the
Tim
applicants?
Yonke is the property owner and Solar America Energy is the applicant.
Okay. all
Right, but we are required, since they're it's not an individual, we're required to give you the names of the actual
Okay.
individuals who own
Thank you.
Sol America.
Okay. Any other questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. All right, going on to ZBA case 1826, request for a special use permit 121-99C34 solar farm in the A1 agricultural district on a parcel generally situated in section 10 of Pilot Township. Petitioners are Sharon H. Schiller, Ernest L. Schiller, property owners, and Borrego Solar Systems Incorporated, applicant.
Before I get started on this one, yesterday at about 3 o'clock, I received a correspondence from Greenberg Farrow, which is the engineering company for Borrego Solar on this project, asking that the committee send this back to Zoning Board of Appeals because they do not feel they were given a proper chance to, at rebuttal after public comment, and would like to have more time to work with the residents and hopefully come up with a solution that is beneficial to all. So at this time, the committee has a choice. They can either choose to send it back to the Zoning Board of Appeals based on this letter, or we can move forward as we normally would with a case.
Ms.
That
Peters.
is up to
I'll
the
make that
committee.
motion to send it back to ZBA.
Okay, is there a second by Mr. Payton? Any discussion? She's made a motion to send it back to ZBA.
Okay, this will go back to ZBA on September 24th.
Only after we vote on it.
Oh, excuse me.
Mr. Washington, do you have a comment?
Has the proposition been rejected by the zoning board of appeals?
As of right now, yes.
Unanimous vote?
Excuse me. 4-1, not unanimous.
I don't see any purpose in sending it back. I don't see any purpose in sending it back.
Any other discussion? All in favor of sending it back to ZBA, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Roll call vote, please. This is a motion to send it back to ZBA.
Mr. Olchoff?
Aye.
Mr. Stauffenberg?
Aye.
Mr. Washington?
Nay.
Ms. Polk? Mr. Hildebrand?
Aye.
Mr. Payton? Ms. Peters?
I got a question. I'm looking at 1826, correct? And back page of
Mr.
the CBA, it says I absent, I nay, I absent, but it failed. Am I looking at the wrong one?
No, there is a mistake on that. Mr. Kinzinger brought to my attention this morning that the,
Oh, sorry.
I forgot to change granted to denied, but the vote is in there. Let's see what the vote is. 1, 2, 3, 4 ayes to recommend denial, 1 nay,
Okay. Oh, maybe I.
and 2 were absent.
Hang on.
The motion
So
was to deny.
The motion was to deny.
If you look up at
so
roll call
okay, so
vote, it says
okay,
granted.
then I'd like to change my motion in the middle.
The motion is on the floor. You can-
Okay. All right. Then I'll vote nay.
You voted nay?
Yeah, on my own motion.
Full motion.
Okay, Mr. Kinzinger? Mr. Fairfield? Mr. Wheeler? 5 to 5.
I don't know.
Okay. Do I? Oh.
Okay, Ms. Peters, you would like to speak again?
Yes. Can I remove my motion then?
Now you can make another one.
Make another
You want to make another one?
Okay. Which would be the other option.
To move forward,
You don't want to
To
send it
move
back?
forward
then,
on.
Then it stands.
Okay, so if we move forward, just for
but without a motion to
clarification.
send, without a motion to send it back, it moves forward, so we really don't
But
need
it,
another
okay,
motion.
they requested it be not approved.
Right.
So how do we agree with them on that? Besides moving
The
it
zoning
forward?
board? Well,
Correct.
if you,
So we move it forward with a,
if I will go through the case now.
Okay.
If you do not want to send it back to zoning board of appeals, we'll do just
Okay.
like we did with the last
okay,
case.
let's do it.
We in agreement?
Yes.
Okay, let's back up a little bit
Moving
here.
forward.
Okay. All right, this is a request for a special use permit for a 3 megawatt community solar garden. It's a little different, it's a little larger. On property at the southwest corner of 1000 South Road and 1000 West Road in Pilot Township. The property owners are Sharon and Ernest Schiller, and the developer is Borrego Solar Systems Incorporated. Zoning Board of Appeals hearing was held on August 6, 2018, and the Zoning Board of Appeals recommends the denial of this proposal 4-1. There were many surrounding property owners who spoke against this. Mr. Kevin McRaven, Donald Kinsler, Mike Damps, Cheryl Shane, and Sam Shane. The Zoning Board of Appeals based their decision on finding of fact number 2. They did not, they felt that this location for the solar farm would be injurious to the use and enjoyment of other properties in the immediate vicinity. We did have a very high LISA score on this particular site. If you look at the map up there, the red outlines the entire property, the blue would be the area where the solar farm would be located.
And the setback is 150 feet?
Setback from the residential, so on the north side and on the west side would be 100-foot setback from the right-of-way line. Anywhere there's a home, there'd be a 100-foot setback. Anywhere there's not a home would be a 50-foot setback.
It's not a 100-foot setback from the road, it's from the home?
No, from the property line.
From the property line.
From the property line. So this has a 100-foot setback at just about every direction, except the southwest.
Mr. Kinzinger?
100 foot, correct me, I may be wrong here, thank you, Mr. Chairman, but isn't the property line in the center of the road in the county?
Yes.
So
No, well, sometimes. Depends
this
on how,
property in the
depends on
center?
how it's divided. If it's a meets and bounds split, the property
Well, this
line
doesn't
is,
show it that way,
is
but I'm
the
just-
center line. Well, this is
Yeah.
just a depiction. This does not take into consideration.
Did anybody look at that
all
on this
of that.
property?
Well, we can go to there's the site plan. Shows all setbacks.
So it is to the center of the road if that's correct.
No, the 100-foot, our ordinance says that if your property line goes to the center of the road, you add another 30 feet to that.
Okay, so that's
So
what-
it'd be 130 feet from the center of the road.
Thank you.
It's 100 feet from the right-of-way line. If no right-of-way line exists, you add 30 feet to it for an assumed right-of-way.
There landscaping proposed for this also?
I do not believe so.
Okay.
No, I believe that they testified that they would consider it if required. Our ordinance does not require it, and leaves it to the Zoning Board of Appeals to decide where and when it's warranted. But since they voted to recommend denial, they did not recommend any conditions for this site, such as landscaping.
All right. So that's your presentation?
That is what I have, yes.
Is there a motion? Mr. Washington,
To agree with the zoning board of appeals.
and deny. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Fairfield. Any discussion? Okay. Roll call vote? Or we can do a voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion, all opposed? Motion to deny. Okay. Going on to ZBA case 1828, request for rezoning from R1 Single Family Residential District to A1 Agricultural District and a special use permit 121-99C34 solar farm in the A1 Agricultural District on a parcel generally situated in section 27 of St. Anne Township. Petitioners are James and Kathleen DeGroot and Paul and Cynthia DeGroot, property owners, and FFP Illinois Community Solar LLC applicant. And there are no objections on this one.
There were no objections, but I can do a quick
Okay.
rundown of it if you'd like. This also has two requests. One is to rezone from R1 Single Family Residential to A1 Agriculture. And the second one is a special use permit to allow the construction of a 2-megawatt community solar garden at property located at the intersection of 8500 East Road and 5000 South Road in St. Anne Township. The map on the screen shows the entire parcel. I believe it's 25 acres. I don't have that written down here. There's the site plan. Would be using the, I think, yeah, it's somewhere between 20 and 25 acres. The site plan, the solar farm would be using the entire parcel as drawn on the preliminary site plan on the screen there. Zoning Board of Appeals voted 7-0 to approve both the rezoning and the special use permit with conditions. Zandra Cohan, an adjoining property owner, did speak at the public hearing, but did not object to the action. Just had questions about how the trees in the area would affect it, and she also stated that she really liked the idea of the security fence around it. The conditions are the standard conditions that they have been placing, the zoning board has been placing on all our solar farm special use permits. 1, the ground cover shall be planted with native pollinator-friendly species, and 2, all required landscaping shall be subject to the maintenance requirements and penalties prescribed in the weed and grass control plan.
Is there a motion? Motion. Mr. Kinzinger to approve. Is there a second? Mr. Washington, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Going on, ZBA case 1829, request for rezoning from A1 Agricultural District to Rural Estates District and a variance to section 121-149D lot size on a parcel generally situated in section 15 of Essex Township. Petitioners are Timothy and Caitlin Wilkerson, property owner and applicant.
I'm gonna change this up a bit. This is not a solar farm. Okay. This is a request for rezoning from A1 Agriculture to RE Rural Estate on a 0.56 acre parcel located at 15977 West 3000 North Road in Essex Township. The parcel contains 1 single family home and a shed. They were divided off of the farm parcel back in 1986. The Wilkersons came in And because they were getting ready to sell the property and wanted to know if it was properly zoned. Unfortunately, it did not meet our ordinance in 1986, which in the A1 district required them to have 2 acres and 250 feet of frontage. They did not do this. They bought it after the fact. In fact, they've only owned it about 2 or 3 years themselves. So to correct that situation, we recommended that they rezone it to rural estate, which would be the appropriate zoning district for a residential parcel in that area. But since it does not have the 1 acre minimum that is required in the rural estate district, they're also asking for a variance for lot size. Zoning Board of Appeals heard the case and voted 5-0 to recommend approval on both the rezoning and the variance. There was no public comment, no objection.
Is there a motion to approve? By Mr. Washington, seconded by Mr. Stauffenberg. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Going on, ZBA case 1830, request for a special use permit 121-99C34 solar farm in the A1 agricultural district on a parcel generally situated in section 30 of Otto Township. Petitioners are Frank L. Barbieri and Jerome Barbieri. Property owners and Solar Provider Group Illinois LLC, Burr Creek Community Solar applicant.
Okay. This is a request for a special use permit for a 2 megawatt community solar garden known as Burr Creek Community Solar. It's along the south side of Illinois Route 115, just northwest of the village of Irwin. You can see on the map on the screen there, everything in yellow is the village of Irwin. The red outline is the subject property. It's a 20.66 acre site. As I said, it does fall within 1.5 miles of the village of Irwin. However, the village of Irwin, to our knowledge, does not have a comprehensive plan. Again, many neighboring property owners spoke out against this proposal. There's the site plan for it. It would encompass the entire site. And the Zoning Board of Appeals voted 4-0 to deny the special use permit on this property.
What was the Lisa score on this?
I can look that up for you. While I'm doing that, the Zoning Board of Appeals also referred to finding of fact number 2, that the homes were too close and that it would affect the enjoyment of those properties. Want to take questions or something while I look
Any
this
questions,
up? It's gonna take a
Mr.
minute.
Wheeler?
You know, I was gonna make the motion, but I'll wait. So
Oh, okay.
I have it here. Here we go. 198, which is a low rating for farmland protection.
Okay. Is there a motion? Oh, yes, Mr. Wheeler.
motion to agree with
Did deny. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Kinzinger. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Going on, ZBA case 1831, request for special use permit 121-99C34 solar farm in the A1 agricultural district on a parcel generally situated in section 12 of Norton Township. The petitioners are Gross Cross Family Farm LLC, property owners, and Solar Provider Group Illinois LLC, Granary Creek 1 Community Solar applicant.
Oh, I've got the wrong case here. Somebody changed my order. All right. Apologize for that. This case is a little bit different. This is a request for a special use permit for a community solar garden, but this one is only 720 kilowatts, not the 2 megawatts you're normally used to seeing, and it's only on 4.5 acres that would be used of the 40-acre site. So it's a very small solar farm. Zoning Board of Appeals, let's see, do I have a site plan? There's how it would look. The closest neighbor is a cemetery, that little green area down there in the corner. It is a small cemetery. Zoning Board of Appeals voted 4-0 to approve with conditions, the same standard conditions we've been using. There was a fair amount of public comment about it, which is in your packet under public comments. Vern Gross is the property owner. It was in favor of the project, thought it was a great idea. John Fornes lives about a half a mile north of the project, believes he will be surrounded by solar farms, and had some questions about a road use agreement. He also stated he was against the project. Amy Martin, a nearby property owner, said she had grandkids that will climb the fence and that she does not wish to live there anymore. Gerald Smith, a representative of the adjoining property owner, stated his mother owns the farmland east of the project and that he has concerns about the heat generated from a solar farm. He also has concerns about drainage tiles and how they would be repaired if damaged. This was addressed at the hearing, and I believe it was stated that they must repair any tiles that would be damaged. Merrill Witheft, a property owner lives about a half a mile southeast of the project, stated there was a right and a wrong way to do things and that this was not the right way. Asked about the racking system, how deep it went in the ground, questioned the reflective glare factors, and was told that involved an old style of panel which is not used anymore. He asked how glare would affect his neighbors. Also asked if anything the piles were coated with. Further stated there was little good water in the area and that the property had a high water table. He also questioned the drainage of the site and the repair of drainage tiles if damaged. Questioned the electromagnetic field. Asked if the site would be returned to farmland and how the solar farm would be connected to the grid. Those questions were addressed with the decommissioning plan, and the applicant did state how it would be connected into the grid, which is right at the road in front of it. His final statement was they hope we are not selling out our grandchildren for immediate benefits and that this project takes good farmland out of production. Glenda Fornes, a property owner, also lives a half mile north of the project, asked questions about other projects the company has completed and asked what was the longest existing project that they have in operation. Their representative stated 3 years. So let me look up the Lisa score because I'm sure that question is coming. And the Lisa score on this one is 218, which puts it at a medium, I believe it. Yeah, anything under 200 is a low. I believe 200 to 225 is a medium class 4.
And the Zoning Board of Appeals recommended.
Zoning Board of Appeals recommended approval 4-0.
Okay. Is there a motion? Mr. Washington, to approve. Seconded by Mr. Kinzinger. Any discussion? Ms. Peters?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was wondering, it's 4.5 acres, but what would be the procedure for them if they wanted to do more? Would they have to bring it back to ZBA to get approval for that, or could they just keep expanding on that acreage?
No, the special use permit is for this particular site, this particular megawatts.
Okay, so they would have to
come back. They can make some
back.
adjustments within that 4.5 acres
Okay.
as they go through their final engineering and design work, but they cannot expand it across the entire property without coming back for another special use permit.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Going on to ZBA case 18-33, request for a special use permit 121-99C34 solar farm in the A1 agricultural district on a parcel generally situated in section 36 of Rockville Township. Petitioners are Sunshine Limited Partnership, property owner, and McKee Solar LLC applicant. Okay.
This is also a request for a special use permit for a 2-megawatt community solar garden. Property is located at the intersection of Career Center Road and 6000 North Road. Right adjacent to it is the ComEd substation out in Rockville Township. I'm pretty sure you're all aware of. The site plan, this is a 80-acre site, but they would only be using the northwest corner, pushed back all the way into the closest to the substation. Zoning Board of Appeals voted 5-0 to recommend granting the special use permit with the same standard conditions that they have been using. There were no public comments, including from the Village of Bourbonnais. I did contact their administrator, and he stated they had no issues with the project.
Is there a motion by Mr. Wheeler to approve? Second it? By Mr. Hildebrandt. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. ZBA case 18-34, request for a special use permit 121-99C34 solar farm in the A1 agricultural district on a parcel generally situated in section 34 of Manteno Township. The petitioners are Sunshine Limited Partnership property owner and Nostran Solar LLC applicant.
Okay. This is also a request for a special use permit on a 2-megawatt community solar garden facility. This one's known as Nostran Solar. It's located at the other end of 6000 North Road, where it intersects with 2000 East Road, or you may know it as Cardinal Drive. It's directly across from the quarry. The property is the blue area there, which is 100 and some odd acres. I don't have that written here. And the project would be down in the lower southwest corner of it. The applicant, after filing their application, realized that there could be a situation where 6000 Road would be extended through the property, and have voluntarily moved the entire site north to accommodate for that. Mark, do you remember how far north you moved it? 150 feet?
I believe it was 130, but we moved
130.
it essentially beyond the size of the right of way that you would need if you put in a roadway there, plus the full setback.
Plus full setback, so.
And did
it
not
is,
move, by the way, I should say, the northern edge, so the same red box, essentially, but we moved the southern boundary.
we received a letter from the Village of Manteno in support of the project, and this does fall within their planning boundary. The planning boundary between the Village of Manteno and the Village of Bradley is 6000 North Road in that area. The Village of Bradley, Catherine Wojnowski, I believe is how you pronounce her name, did speak at the public hearing and voiced concerns about it. I do not recall whether she actually, there was no formal objection, and we have not received a formal objection from the Village of Bradley on this.
There, Mr. Kinzinger.
That's my own confusion. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Which way's north?
Up.
No, okay.
North is always up on them, always up. Let's see, there's the site plan. Now that's the site plan before modifications were made for 6000 Road.
Mr. Lesage mentioned about the drainage outlet for the quarry, which is a 36-inch tile that water gets pumped to keep the quarry drained, and he believes it goes through this property. And that would have to be taken into consideration when you're putting that down, because that's a huge tile.
Absolutely, and the site plan may have to be adjusted if it is determined it's on this property.
You said that the southern boundary was raised to allow for the easement for, yeah. That the site plan was moved north, but the north line was not adjusted, so are you dealing with lower acreage then?
Well, in the end, you can look at it however you'd like to, because remember that our engineering plan is conceptual. what we've indicated is that within the area we've requested approval on, we would ensure that the project site was moved up that, I apologize, I believe it's 130 feet north of there. So essentially we always, you'll notice that our site plans tend to have a slightly smaller acreage number, slightly larger acreage number on them. And that's to make sure we have the ability to adjust both for that and, as you said, for the drain tile when the engineering looks at it.
Is Road 6,000 4 lanes coming up to the Route 50? Is any? It's just 2?
It goes down to 2 lanes before you get to Cardinal Drive. Yeah, it's 4 lanes across Route 50.
Right.
And it goes
And
down
then
to
it
2
goes down to
lanes.
2 lanes.
All right, that's because it was 4 lanes that would need greater adjustments if that was the plan, but it's not.
The letter from the Village of Manteno indicates that you agreed to 133 feet.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
That's correct.
Okay. Any other questions? Ms. Peters?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I've got your
Is-
switch on all the time.
Is there a plan on opening up a road on 6,000? Right now, there's not.
It is nothing more than talk.
Okay. There's no.
There's a few plans on paper. We
Okay.
could never say, we cannot say when or where or if it would
Okay.
ever occur.
Because I'm looking at on 3,000 East Road is the Diversitech campus, and those trucks may come up 3,000 instead of going through Manteno, and so that would be probably for an access. Or did they look at? Let's see, that's 7,000 Road. Is there any plan for 7,000 Road to move that traffic from Diversitech south to use that interchange, the new interchange?
If I recall, the last time this was discussed was very early on during the Ileana Expressway discussions, when the Ileana might have very well been at 6,000 Road. And there was discussions about taking 6,000 all the way across to 65. There's not, in the last 5 or 6 years, there's been no discussion about extending 6,000 Road. But it's certainly a possibility as the metropolitan area expands out that road would be needed. And I think to get truck traffic from Diversitech directly to the interstate would be great.
That would be the best.
And by preserving that right of way now would be a good thing. Whether it's used or not, I can't say. There's no official plan, and there's certainly no project that's been programmed to do that.
Okay, so what
Which
do I
means
need
the
to
money
do?
is
Okay.
the money's not there yet.
Right, correct.
Okay.
What would I need to do to preserve that? Because I would like to see the traffic go, south instead of through Manteno
Well,
to the new interchange.
the Regional Planning Commission has the power to preserve a right-of-way for a future roadway. I do not know all the ins and outs and legal
Okay.
aspects of that, but they do have that's one of the powers that the Planning Commission does have.
So that they could.
So we could take that before them. I think we have to have a more solidified plan first.
Okay, so if it passes here, it would still need to pass.
No, all you are looking at here is the special use permit for the solar farm, which they have allowed,
Okay,
that they have given a larger setback so that if we would like to buy that right away later or use that for right away, we would not have to move their solar farm or buy their solar farm out.
Okay.
It's just preserving the ground right now
okay,
from obstructions.
thank you.
Okay. Mr. Washington?
Trying to clarify this, are you saying that you're willing to accept a reduction in space in order to accommodate those lines?
Essentially, and by the way, we can put it either way you'd like to. In our mind, what we've said is that we will set back our project 133 feet from the center line of what would have been the continued, it's actually from the property line, but would also be the center line of the roadway if it was there. It's not, there's really no need to change the project area, because once we put that setback in, it's no different than if you made your standard setback 133 instead of 100.
It's still the same.
Yeah, still the same. And our goal, Delbert said it even better than I can, but our goal was really, when this was brought to our attention by both the county staff and by the mayor of Manteno, we agreed with them. Look, who knows if this road will ever happen? This group will have much more involvement in that than any of us will, but we didn't want to put in a situation that would create problems when you did that in the future. So it was a simple thing to move it, give you guys flexibility, whether you build the road or not is certainly not our purview.
Thank you.
Mr. Kinzinger.
I was going to Indiana, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was going to Indiana here a month or two ago. I think it's on 114, and went right by a solar farm on a 2-line road, chain link fence right up to about the 100-foot mark. Nobody seems to have mentioned, but there's a lot of property there that abuts a future 6,000 road, and not that I want the developer to spend money now, but we should take consideration in that south frontage of 6,000 road in terms of giving it a little architectural appeal or landscaping appeal, like a berm, as one person suggested, or some type of landscaping, but somebody needs to look at that. If they extend 6,000 road that way, there's a good reason, it'll be traffic.
Mm-hmm.
If you would like to put a condition on the approval that they landscape that end of the,
I don't want to spend the money now. Is there a way to do that if it happens? You know, there's no use spending money you don't have to spend.
the
but at the same
condition
time-
could say that landscaping would be required if 6,000 road were to be built at that location.
That's fine.
And we'd have to ask the developer if they would have any objection to that condition, but
Well, that'd be their choice. We could
Right.
vote in what we wanted.
yes.
Mr. Wheeler.
I would like to make that motion as Mr. Kinzinger has laid out. Motion to approve with that stipulation that if the road is ever built, then the developer would provide adequate landscape cover as they have on all the
Okay.
other properties.
Is there a second to
And
that?
subject to the same requirements that if it dies, they have to replant it and all
The other
things.
conditions as
Yeah, they
presented.
typically go with a
Is there a
pollinator.
second to that
all
motion by Mr. Payton? Now, any discussion? I've got a question. This 36-inch tile I was talking about, do you know where that is?
We did not bring our engineers here for the meeting, but again, we addressed those in final engineering. We're aware, we appreciated it was pointed out, and there's no question, as Delbert says, it's our job to address that.
I'm guessing, as you can see that waterway,
Right.
I'm guessing it's in that waterway.
So Scott Novak, Cypress Creek Renewables. We do have an idea of where it is in that lower southwest corner of the parcel, and that's another thing actually that moving the southern fence line up
Would eliminate that.
would avoid the tile.
I
So
think that's correct.
yeah, that is something that we've got our thumb on already.
Okay.
And can I ask for a quick clarification on the amendment for the plan? We're talking about, I assume, the sort of standard double row of evergreen trees that we put in along there. Putting in a berm really impacts our farmer if he wants to farm his property in the south. That would be 130 feet off the highway, essentially having sort of standard. We want to make sure it's landscape, not a berm.
I believe that's what we were talking about. Is that
That was
correct?
my motion.
Yes.
I don't know what,
Standard tree plantings that
Okay.
I don't know what
landscaping.
kind,
Sorry, we were chatting and we didn't hear Mr. Wheeler's
Okay.
motion, so I just wanted to hear what the language was.
I'm not sure what the farmer, what width of a planter he has, but if it's a 24 row, it's a 60-foot wide planter, and one round would be 120 feet.
Right.
So just,
So your 133 works very well, and I'm not sure we were bright enough to have known that when we did it.
okay, okay.
But we appreciate it.
He knows a guy.
The Lisa score on this property was 185.1, which is a low rating for farmland protection.
I know the rock is high there, but I mean, I don't know if it's high in that specific location, but there's a quarry next to it, which tells you the rock
Might
is
be
high.
a good indication.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Mr. Washington? We have a motion and a second to approve. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Going on to ZBA case 1835, request for a special use permit 121-99 community residential home in the A1 agricultural district on a parcel generally situated in section 24 of Momance Township. Petitioner are JAVD Illinois LLC, Series Conservation, and Illinois Series LLC, property owner, and Garden of Prayer applicant.
Okay, this is a request for a special use permit for a community residential home at 16601 East State Route 114 in Momance Township. The property is shown on the screen there. The entire property is in the red boundary. They are leasing a 5-acre area. It's not being divided, but leasing a 5-acre area with a pole barn and a home at the lower end near Route 114. This would be a community residential home for young men between the teen males. I believe while their permits could allow up to 10, they were going to have between 6 and 8 at any given time at this location. This is just down the street from the main Garden of Prayer Youth Center facility, which is just to the south side of the road and probably about a quarter mile west of here. Zoning Board of Appeals heard this case and all the testimony. There were no objectors, and they voted 7-0 to recommend the approval of the special use permit.
And there was a favorable mentioned by the owner of the property. I got that right?
The owner of the property was not at the public hearing.
Okay, all right.
So there was no mention of it.
No.
Yeah, so no.
Okay. Mr. Payton,
Mr. Chairman, I gladly move for a motion for approval. Garden of Prayer has served this community well in my years in Kankakee County.
Mr. Washington. Okay. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Just for the record, this is the owner of the company that I'm on the management board of, or the team of, owns this property. It's not the company, so I can vote. There is no financial tie or anything. I just want it on the record because somebody may say that my vote is compromised. It's not. It's for the property and it's not for the company.
Okay. Thank you.
I should probably add that at this time, Garden of Prayer is not planning to make any modifications to the buildings, and they are adequate for their purposes now.
All right. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Going on, 1836, request, ZBA case 1836, request for special use permit 121-99C34 solar farm in A1 agricultural district on a parcel generally situated in section 101 of Pilot Township. Petitioners are Kajika Kasija. What is it? Kasija, Living Trust property owner, and Irwin Solar LLC applicant.
Okay, this is another special use permit request for a 2-megawatt community solar garden. This one's known as Irwin Solar Farm. Property is located on South 8000 West Road in Section 1 of Pilot Township, just about 3/4 of a mile south of Route 17. If you look on the map there, the entire property is outlined in red. The location of the solar farm is in blue. They'll be utilizing about 20.7 acres of the 25.35 acre parcel. The land across the road is zoned I-2 industrial. If you see that loop there, that is the grain shuttle facility that
It's Eastern Illinois.
Eastern Illinois grain shuttle facility there. The property is kind of a horseshoe shape. Ms. Kasija also owns the one in the middle where the pond is on. There's the site plan for the facility. There will be landscaping along the southern edge where the few homes are. The entrance will be also on the southeast corner. ZBA recommends the approval 7-0 with the same standard conditions. There was no public comment and there was no objection.
Is there a motion to approve by Mr. Stauffenberg, seconded by Mr. Hildebrand? Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Wow. Under transportation, Showbus, section 5311, grant agreement, fiscal year 2019, 5006.
Alrighty. Jeffrey could not be here today, so I told him I would take over for him, so bear with me. I may not be quite as knowledgeable as he is on some of this. Last fall, we submitted the intercity bus grant application to IDOT for service from Moments to the Greyhound stop in Kankakee. and 2 bus shelters, one in Sun River Terrace and one in Momence. This grant will have no local match coming from the county, and all funds are state and federal. IDOT has sent us 2 agreements for the grant. One agreement for providing service between Momence and Greyhound, expanding the current Momence commuter route, $14,684.30 in federal funds, $10,594.70 in state funds. And the other agreement is to install the 2 bus shelters at a cost of $16,000 in state funds. So we're asking today for permission for the chairman to sign these agreements.
Motion by Mr. Payton to approve, second by Mr. Kinzinger. No. And you have a question? Okay.
I read both these resolutions and am somewhat confused with section 1 in both of them. Not certain. I think you said there's no cost to the county, and yet it talks about offsetting our costs and deficits and capital costs of Kankakee County. So the summary of all this is it isn't going to cost the taxpayers locally, other than taxpayers state and nationally, to take this grant.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, there's no local money, there's no local match.
Okay.
But all of us as taxpayers
Yes.
will be paying for it, yes.
Says we need roll call for this. So, roll call. Mr. Payton.
Mr. Chairman, is there any time frame on how long it'll take this project to be approved?
I do not have that in front of me. Laura is here. I think she was here. I don't know if she has an answer to that. I can tell you the location of the bus shelters has not been determined yet. We still have to discuss that with both municipalities.
Okay.
Correct.
It's on.
The location hasn't been determined. We'll work with Sun River Terrace and Momence to see where they would wish those shelters to be located, but it's been discussed for years. The extension down to Greyhound would be a very easy revision of an already existing route. So really, we're only waiting for the contracts to come through with signature, and then we can begin working on the projects.
Is there anything you need from the village to move?
Closer to the mic, please. Both of you closer to the mic.
I asked, my question was it anything she needed from the village of Sun River Terrace in particular to move the shelter forward?
Well, certainly an agreement of where to locate it. If I knew a way to speed up the state signatures, I would do it. Hopefully that will happen soon.
Mr. Kinzinger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I may have a concern and would like to abstain from voting on this. And there could be I'm not certain how this all interrelates, but we bid a project for the bus place, putting some concrete work in and making stuff ADA approved. And I'm not certain if this is part of that or not.
That would be the Metro bus shelters.
Yes.
That's completely separate from
Okay,
this.
very good. Thank you.
Also, Mr. Chairman, this is 2 different actions on the agenda. There's 2 agreements, but each one has separate actions, so there should be separate votes.
Right. This is for the first one, section 55311. Okay. Any other discussion?
I have one question.
Mr. Wheeler.
Who is it solely up to the municipality where these shelters go? Or is there any input that we have on that?
We
as
have
well?
input. There would be a mutual agreement, but it's my understanding, though, that the municipalities would be basically donating the site. It would be on public land within the municipality.
Okay.
So there is some limits as to where we could go.
Sure. The only reason I mention that is because a lot of the employers in Momence especially, and we know where the ridership drops off there. I would hate to see the donation be downtown when it's really most of the users are going to for employment purposes to specific areas. So that's why I asked.
Yeah, I believe we have to have those discussions of where the best place is going to be, but
okay.
I think we have just as much say in the matter as the village does.
Thank you.
Okay, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Olkoff? Mr. Stauffenberg. Mr. Washington. Ms. Polk. Mr. Hildebrand. Mr. Payton. Ms. Peters. Mr. Kinzinger. Mr. Fairfield. Mr. Wheeler. Motion carried.
Okay, and going on to the next one, the Show Bus Capital Assistant Grant Agreement. Motion to approve. Mr. Washington, seconded by Mr. Payton. Any questions? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Oh, roll call.
Mr. Oldtop.
Aye.
Mr. Stauffenberg. Mr. Washington. Ms. Polk. Mr. Hildebrand. Mr. Payton. Ms. Peters. Mr. Kinzinger. Mr. Fairfield. Mr. Wheeler. Motion carried.
Is there a rural transit update?
There is. We'll try to be quick about it here. Fourth quarter for 2018 for rural transit update. Total number of trips is 8,866, which is an 8% increase over last year's fourth quarter. Demand response had 4,266 trips, which is a 4% increase over last year's fourth quarter. Moments commuter had 4,600 trips, or I believe those are right. No, that's trips. Never mind. A 12% increase over last year. And overall trips for FY 2018 has been 36,704, which is a 21% increase over last year.
Wow.
So it sounds like the program is successful. Demand response had 17,767 trips, a 19% increase over last year. And last year for managed care organization trips. Moments commuter had 18,937 for the year so far, and a 23% increase over last year. We believe the increase is likely due to more work trips in Moments.
Just curious, are there any complaints?
Is that for Laura?
Yes, for Laura.
Microphone, please.
Yeah, there you go. Sorry.
There may have been one complaint, but that might have been in another county.
Never mind.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, show bus branding, Chairman.
Mr. Wheeler.
Thank you. This is something that, I don't know, for the better part of four to 6 years, it's been irking me that I guess it's more lately than it was in the past, now that we do actually fund money out of the general fund into this endeavor, which obviously it's working for a lot of employees and employers in different parts of the county, but the brand of Show Bus, it is really the Kankakee County Rural Transit System. And I think the public is missing an opportunity to realize that we do this. And it's something that's kind of bothered me, and I know there's a cost to rebranding and logos on buses and things like that, but I would like to ask this committee if we can at least go down the road of knowing what it would cost to rebrand those buses to a to be determined name, whatever, if that is what we wanted to do. You know, there's other considerations. There are other townships that contribute to this, but it is the Kankakee transit system, the county transit system. So I think we're missing an opportunity, and the public's missing an opportunity to know who's really behind this and the efforts out of the planning department.
Could it be the adding of a sticker that says Kankakee County Transit?
I'd want it to replace Show Bus.
You would want to remove Show Bus
Yes.
altogether.
I don't mind if that's on the bottom, on the back of it or something, but the brand is Kankakee County.
Okay.
And so that's why I'm just want to throw it to the committee to to just say, hey, investigate what the cost is. Talk to Laura about what that means for Show Bus in general, because I know there was at one time I'd heard something along the lines, well, what if we have to pull that bus into another county to use it?
There is some sharing,
right,
that occurs between counties and the buses. If you ever see, the green ones are ours, the blue ones belong to someone else, but they do share them some. It would be my recommendation that yes, we open this up for discussion and we know all the facts before we make a full decision, because there is cost involved. There could be, I don't know if there'd be liability issues or not. I know Showbus insures all the buses for us, so if their name's not on it, I don't know if that makes a difference. There's some considerations, and of course there is cost involved. And
I would think our liability umbrella covers us as well,
Could
because we
be.
have to be named as an also insured or something like that, so.
I would rather come back with all the facts
Exactly.
to the committee
Yep.
before we make a decision.
So it was more like, do you want us to look into this? Because I feel stronger about it today than I ever have. Yeah.
All right, is there a motion to that effect by Mr. Kinzinger, seconded by Mr. Washington? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Not yet. It's just move ahead type thing. Yeah.
Okay.
I will assign that to Jeffrey.
Of course.
Any old business?
He's not here. That's why you can do
Teach him not to
Seeing
show
no
off.
old business, under new business, one opening on the Kankakee County Zoning Board of Appeals, 2 openings on the Kankakee County.
Zoning board.
That's what it says.
ZBA.
I have no one that stepped down. Is someone not reapplied, maybe? I'll have to look into that.
2 openings on the Kankakee County Historic Preservation Commission and 6 openings on the Kankakee County Regional Planning Commission.
I have, sorry, I missed old business, new business.
Okay.
Monkey business.
It was mentioned.
I know. I was kibitzing here with the devil. Lisa score. I have a question about that. How is that relevant in the discussion of our decision-making process on zoning of, or citing, approving a special use for a solar farm? Because I guess the reason I ask that question is it seems to me it's extraneous to the rights of the property owner to make a decision what to do with their own farmland. If we're talking about Lisa scores, it means that we feel we have the opportunity to say, we don't want you to use that farm for anything else but farming because that ground is too good. And I think that we're treading on delicate turf, no pun intended.
Then you wouldn't have subdivisions.
It's just a tool for you to use, one more piece of information in your decision-making process. It should not be the only thing you look at. There's 2 parts of the LISA score. LISA is Land Evaluation Site Assessment Score. There's the land assessment side of it. That's where the soil types, the productivity is looked at. That's part of the score. And then you have the site assessment, which, like in the cases of solar farms, really doesn't apply to them. And I have said this before, because the site assessment looks at proximity to a municipality. Is sewer and water available? Are the roads adequate? All the things that a solar farm doesn't need, so it doesn't matter to that. But the land assessment does, because we want to try to protect our farmland, and we want to try not to take the best farmland out of production.
My question is what right do we have to impose that upon the landowner? We're not saying we want to put a solar farm there. It's the landowner who says they want to do that.
Correct.
So by us imposing a LISA score criterion, or at least filtering it through that lens, seems to me that it's almost prejudicial to the rights of the landowner. I'm just throwing it out there because we've been going through it, and it's nice to know, but really, does that kind of distract us from what our mission is?
How much weight the committees give to that is up to those individuals on those committees. You do not have to, it's a piece of information to help you make a decision. It's not, you're not bound that if it's a high score that you must preserve it. But it's my understanding the county board, I think it was about 96, approved the LISA program and the score. So if you would no longer want to use it, you can certainly rescind what you did in 1996.
Did we approve it for this particular use?
For all zoning cases.
For all zoning cases.
And land, zoning cases, I believe subdivisions. Anytime a land, that's why you don't do them for everything. If the land is changing, if it's not being farmed now, you don't do a LISA score. Only if it's already being farmed. If you're taking land out of production, then we're supposed to do a LISA score on it.
I think private property rights are paramount to other issues. And I think they should take, any other issues should take a second place to private property rights.
Yeah.
because that's always been held as sacrosanct.
Well, I mean, it's all part of the tapestry of information that you are going to consider on these cases. Property rights is certainly one of them, but just because the property owner wants to do it doesn't necessarily make it a great thing to do and may affect the property rights of others surrounding them. And that's what you're really trying to do with zoning, is weighing the property owner's property rights versus the neighbor's property rights versus the public's rights to make sure that none of them are harmed. And it's a balancing act between all of them. Because we must always remember that developer has rights, that property owner has rights, the adjoining property owners also have rights, and the public in general has rights. And it's best not to step on any of those. In a perfect world, you wouldn't.
I just want to have a conversation.
Okay.
I'll just go to it.
Thank you. Any other new business? Motion to adjourn and be in order by Ms. Peters, seconded by Ms. Polk. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.